Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is asking, why me? Someone else is wondering if the pain they're carrying will ever make sense, or if it's just pointless hurt. But what if you discovered there's a secret door inside every moment of suffering? A way of seeing pain so radical that once you walk through it, you never see yourself or life the same again. Stay until the end, and you'll learn the truth that Viktor Frankl used to survive the darkest places on earth, and how it could set you free from the suffering you thought would break you. Most of us spend our lives running from pain. We try to numb it, bury it, or hide behind distractions. The world teaches us to see suffering as a problem to be solved, an enemy to be defeated, or something that means we're failing at life. So when suffering shows up, we panic. We ask, how do I make this stop? Or worse, what's wrong with me that I can't? But Viktor Frankl saw suffering differently. As a young doctor and a rising star in psychology, he lost everything in the Holocaust: his family, his career, his freedom. Every comfort and certainty was stripped away. Yet, in the middle of that horror, Frankl found a truth that changed not just his own life, but millions more. He realized suffering is not the end of meaning, but the place where meaning can begin. That pain, as cruel as it seems, is often the door through which we become most alive. Frankl wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Suffering, in his view, isn't a sign of failure. It's an invitation. The challenge is not to escape it, but to find out what it asks of us. Think back to a time when pain forced you to stop. Maybe it was loss, heartbreak, illness, or the quiet loneliness of feeling unseen. In those moments, the world gets smaller and sharper. You notice things you never saw before. People who never cared suddenly matter. Small comforts mean everything. Frankl discovered that, in suffering, people are stripped of the things that once distracted them. In the concentration camps, he watched men and women lose their possessions, their status, even their names. What was left was the truth of who they really were and what truly mattered. This is the strange power of suffering. It clarifies. It burns away what's fake, what's shallow, what doesn't serve you anymore. And in that empty space, you can begin to build something real. Frankl wrote, "Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." It's in the fire of suffering that you discover the freedom nobody can take. Most people believe pain only has value if it can be avoided or conquered. But Frankl's insight is different. Pain becomes bearable when it is given meaning. In the camps, Frankl noticed that those who survived weren't always the physically strongest, but those who found a reason, a person they loved, a belief, a future hope, or even just a single thing left unfinished. Meaning doesn't erase suffering, but it transforms it. When you find a why, as Frankl said, you can endure almost any how. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to be grateful for pain or pretending things are okay when they aren't. It means asking, what is this suffering asking me to become? What truth can I carry through this, even if nothing else is left? Pain without meaning crushes. Pain with meaning can give birth to the strongest parts of you. There's something no one tells you about suffering. It's often the birthplace of your greatest wisdom, your deepest compassion, and your most powerful strengths. When you survive something you thought would destroy you, you gain a kind of confidence no easy life can give. You become the person others turn to when their own world falls apart, not because you have all the answers, but because you've walked the hardest roads and found your way through. Frankl believed that suffering, faced honestly, teaches you to love more deeply, forgive more easily, and see the beauty in things others overlook. It makes you humble enough to help and strong enough to hope. He wrote, "What is to give light must endure burning." Your pain is not pointless. It's forging something in you that might one day save someone else. When pain comes, most people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Frankl learned to ask, "What is life expecting from me right now?" This small shift changes everything. It moves you from victim to survivor, from powerless to purposeful. Even in the darkest places, you still have a choice about how you meet your suffering. That choice is the seed of your freedom. This isn't about denying how hard it is. It's about discovering that inside you is a strength and a story you never would have found any other way. If you've ever felt lost in your suffering, know this: there is another side. The truth Frankl found in his darkest hours can be yours too. In the next moments, you'll see exactly how to find meaning in your hardest trials, and how that meaning can change not just how you survive, but how you live. There comes a point in every person's life where the pain becomes too much to ignore. Maybe you lose someone you love, or the future you dreamed of shatters overnight. Maybe it's a slow, grinding ache that follows you everywhere. Loneliness, rejection, the sense that you don't belong. In those moments, most people reach for comfort or distraction, hoping the pain will fade. But Viktor Frankl believed that these are the very moments that can transform us, if we dare to face them with open eyes. Frankl called it the search for meaning, the single most important force in a person's life. He wrote that even in the worst situations, we still have the freedom to choose our response, and through that choice, we find our deepest purpose. The turning point comes not when the pain stops, but when you decide to look for meaning in the middle of it. That choice, small as it seems, is where suffering starts to lose its power over you. Frankl discovered that meaning is not found in comfort or pleasure, but in how you relate to your pain. He described 3 main ways people find meaning, even when life is hardest. 1. Through creative work or achievement. Maybe it's something you build, write, fix, or create. When you pour yourself into a project, art, or goal, even a small one, you turn suffering into something new. The act of creating pulls you forward, showing you that life can still produce beauty, even from brokenness. 2. Through experiencing love or connection. Even in suffering, you can reach for love by caring for someone else, holding on to memories of those you've lost, or simply connecting with a stranger who understands your pain. Frankl saw how people in the camps could survive incredible hardships because of a single moment of kindness, a shared hope, or the thought of seeing loved ones again. Love is meaning in its purest form. 3. Through the attitude you take towards suffering. When nothing else is left, no freedom, no comfort, no hope of escape, you still have the power to choose how you carry your pain. Frankl watched people find dignity in the darkest places by refusing to give up their inner values. Sometimes, just surviving with compassion and integrity is a form of victory. Most of us are taught to run from suffering. We hide behind our phones, fill our days with noise, or convince ourselves we don't care. But avoiding pain doesn't make it disappear. It only makes it grow in the shadows. Frankl's own life proved that facing suffering honestly is the only way to find freedom. Avoiding pain leaves you stuck in the same old patterns. It traps you in fear and keeps you from growing. When you turn and face your suffering, it becomes smaller. You learn you are bigger than what hurts you. The pain may not go away, but it stops controlling your story. Something strange happens when you stop running from suffering. You become more human. Frankl wrote that people who have suffered often develop a deep well of compassion for others. They recognize the pain in someone else's eyes and know how to offer real comfort, not empty words, but genuine understanding. Your suffering, faced honestly, becomes a bridge to others. It teaches you humility, patience, and the courage to listen without judgment. The people who seem strongest are often those who have survived the most, and who now use that wisdom to help others find their way. No one chooses their suffering, but everyone has the power to choose their attitude. Frankl believed that this was the last of all human freedoms, and that it could never be taken from you, not by prison, loss, or fate. The way you meet your pain shapes who you become. Choosing your attitude is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about facing reality with honesty, and then deciding what kind of person you want to be within it. Will you be bitter or better? Will you close off or open up? Will you let suffering harden your heart or soften it? Every time you choose courage over fear, hope over despair, or love over anger, you reclaim your power. You become the author of your story, not just a character in it. Frankl believed that nothing in life, not even suffering, has to be wasted. He saw how people could turn the worst experiences into fuel for growth, wisdom, and service. Pain, transformed by meaning, becomes purpose. Ask yourself, what could this pain be preparing you for? Who might you help once you make it through? What strengths are being born in you that you never would have found otherwise? The meaning you find doesn't have to be grand or heroic. Sometimes, it's as simple as deciding not to let suffering close your heart. You may not be able to change what happened, but you can choose what happens next. One of the hardest parts of suffering is letting go of the story you thought you were living. Loss, failure, heartbreak, they all force you to rewrite the script. But Frankl saw that the end of one story is the beginning of another. The meaning you find in suffering becomes the seed of a new life. Don't be afraid to let go of what was, so you can reach for what could be. Pain is not the enemy. It's the soil where new dreams can grow. There's a truth waiting for you, just beyond the pain. In the next moments, you'll see exactly how suffering can become your greatest teacher, and why Viktor Frankl's wisdom could change your life in ways you never imagined. There comes a moment when the pain you're carrying feels less like a weight and more like a lesson. It doesn't mean you wanted it, or that you wouldn't give anything to be free of it. But something shifts. You start to see that suffering is not only what happened to you, but what's happening through you. In those moments, the world grows quieter. Your inner voice becomes clearer. You realize pain has shaped you, but it does not define you. Viktor Frankl believed that suffering, when faced honestly, can become one of life's greatest teachers. The lessons are never simple or easy. Sometimes they come in the form of patience, learning to sit with uncertainty when all you want is answers. Sometimes it's humility, realizing you can't control everything, that life has its own rhythms and timelines. And sometimes suffering teaches you acceptance, not of defeat, but of what you cannot change, so you can finally pour your energy into what you can. The world will try to tell you that suffering is just bad luck, or a curse, or a sign you're not strong enough. But Frankl's wisdom shows us a different way. Suffering can give you vision, compassion, and a depth of understanding that is impossible to learn from books or comfort. It can transform you into a person whose presence is itself a source of light for others. Most of us want pain to go away, not speak. But what if you listened? Every ache, every loss, every sleepless night, it all says something. Maybe it tells you what matters most, or what you still need to heal. Maybe it's a sign that something in your life needs to change, or a reminder that you have more to give. Frankl taught that the meaning hidden in pain isn't always clear right away. It often emerges slowly, like dawn after a long night. But by asking, "What is this pain teaching me?" you turn suffering from an enemy into a teacher. You might learn where you've been too hard on yourself, or where you've neglected your needs. You might discover strength you didn't know you had, or a purpose that wasn't clear before. When you give your pain a voice, you start to reclaim your power. Suffering may visit you, but it does not have to be your home. The wisdom you gain can become a guide for building a life that is richer and more meaningful than before. Frankl showed that meaning can be made, even from the hardest circumstances, by the choices you make every single day. Start by asking yourself, what do I want to do with the life I have left? You can create meaning by loving deeply, by giving your gifts to the world, by turning your scars into bridges for others to cross. The past may shape you, but it doesn't get to decide your future. Small actions matter. A kind word, a helping hand, the courage to try again. Each is a step away from suffering as your story, and toward suffering as your teacher. When you make meaning, you reclaim your life as your own. The wisdom you earn in suffering is not just for you. Frankl believed that the truest purpose in life comes from serving others, from turning your lessons into light for those who are lost. When you share your story, you give others permission to hope again. You remind them that even in the worst times, life can still be beautiful. If you've ever survived a dark night, you know the power of a kind word, a listening ear, or a reminder that things can change. Sometimes your healing is someone else's roadmap. Your scars show the world that wounds can become wisdom, and that pain can give birth to purpose. Don't be afraid to reach out, to share your journey, to listen without judgment. The world is full of silent sufferers, waiting for proof that they are not alone. Frankl's greatest lesson is this: suffering is inevitable, but despair is not. No matter what you lose, you always have the freedom to choose your response. You can let pain close your heart, or you can let it open you to new meaning. You can become bitter, or you can become better. When you see suffering not as the end of your story, but as the soil where meaning can grow, your whole life begins to change. You realize that Nothing is wasted, not even your hardest days. You become more than a survivor. You become a creator of meaning. Frankl wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is your truth, your power, your path forward." If you're listening to this now, it means you're searching for a new way to carry your pain. It means you're ready for more than just surviving. You want to live with meaning, purpose, and hope. So take a breath. Ask yourself, what is my suffering trying to teach me? How can I turn my pain into purpose? Who needs to hear my story? Your next chapter begins with the decision to find meaning, even in what hurts. Let Frankl's wisdom be your guide. Let your struggle be the beginning of someone else's hope. You have the freedom to choose, even now. If this video helped you see suffering in a new way, share your story or your biggest lesson in the comments. Subscribe for more wisdom and real guidance, because your journey to meaning and healing is just getting started.